And I believe we're live. Hi, everyone. This is For the Love of Comics. Welcome to another live stream. This is a Saturday live stream. We usually do Sunday live streams, but I'm traveling tomorrow morning, and it's been so long that I wanted to do something instead of having yet another week pass by before I put something up online. And there really is a lot to catch up on, which is why the change in schedule. So, a warm welcome to a Saturday live stream with summer having kicked off completely and fully in New Delhi, where I am. And I guess I'm enjoying the heat. It's not been horrible so far, but the next couple of months is going to be terrible. And now that we have gotten talking about the weather out of the way, we can start talking about comics. But great to see people in the chat already. Do let me know, all you early birds, whether the audio is all right, whether the video is all right. I am trying a little bit of a low profiles thing over here. I don't have my big dynamic mic right in front of me. I've got this condenser boomed above me to give myself the freedom to do the unboxings that I have planned for today. But I am also a little paranoid about extra noise and just basically something different. So let me know if there's anything bothersome about the audio, and I can switch back to the usual setup. Also, let me know if everything is synced up, if the video and the audio are synchronized. Sometimes that's a problem. What other hygiene checks do I have? Oh, anyone in the chat, and for those of you who are watching later and recording, leave for me where you're joining from. Where are you based currently at the time of watching the stream or the recording of the stream? That's always something I love seeing right at the top of the streams. So hello, fellow denizens of comics YouTube. Great to see everyone here. A whole bunch of people in the chat. I've got Memphistalgia. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have you here. Ashwita writes is also in the chat for right now, at least. We've got Michael Hay. Good to see you. You are here from the very start. That's excellent. We've got Riddhi Dasgupta, hello, good to see you. Sajjad, good to see you. Abhinav Naidu, hello from Bengaluru, good to see you. Audio sounds good. All right, excellent. We've got Divolik, hello from Ukraine, wonderful. Watching from Cape Town, Sajjad, good to have you here. We've got Memphistalgia is calling in from England. We've got Opramit, good to see you from Kolkata. Fantastic. Some familiar faces, some people I am seeing for the first time. Not to mention, I mean, not to say that this is your first time, but I just haven't seen you chat, which I'm glad to see you coming out of your shell. If it is your first time joining one of these live streams, welcome. I hope that today's will be a quick live stream, by which I don't necessarily mean it'll be a short one, but I hope to keep things moving because we've got a whole bunch of stuff over here to catch up on. But I'll get into a little bit of context as far as where I've been, because I have been absent from YouTube for a while. So some of you may be wondering what I've been up to. Some of you know my patrons over at Patreon and channel memberships. You've been getting a couple of sporadic updates here and there. You've seen some photo albums and things like that. The others, if you follow the Instagram or the community posts over here, as well as the Instagram for Indian Summer Press, the small publishing house that Ashwita and I started last year, you will have some sort of an idea of what we've been up to. But all of these things that we have been doing have unfortunately kept me away from the YouTube side of things as far as making edited videos of my own are concerned. I haven't been completely absent from YouTube. I have been on YouTube on live streams. I had a couple a few months ago over on this channel. I've joined other people's live streams. Most notably, I think this was late last year. Omar from Near Mint Condition had me over to Near Mint Condition to talk about the publishing house and talk about starting off publishing indie comics in India and how that's been. So if you want a nice long chat, that's a good thing to check out. We've also been working our way through Strangers in Paradise, a couple of us YouTube friends over here. The first episode of that was a live stream over here. The second episode was over on Highland G's channel, who's really the host of this. It's put together by Highland G, Matt, and myself, and we've got guests like Gore Vidal, Sleepy Reader, and we've got a third yes, the third part of that coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And there have been a couple of other, I think I was over on the Comic Binges channel and we were talking about Exchanging Reads, our second chapter of Exchanging Reads, in which he recommends a comic to me and I recommend a comic to him, and then we exchange our opinions on what we thought. So I haven't been completely absent, but I have been busy, and I've been busy writing comics, publishing comics, and trying to sell comics. And that's really taken up an incredible amount of time, as you may imagine. At the same time, publishing comics hasn't been just publishing the comics that I work on, but I've been working in editorial development with other people's pitches and other people's stories. So I've been operating as an editor for other people's comics as well. All of this has sort of come to a culmination with a very, with I think the last couple of months have seen me at the printing press quite often. I've been there for getting a couple of new books out, and I've been there for getting a couple of reprints, which is good news, of earlier works, earlier chapters of my comics. So all of that running around and all of the sales and all of the fests that we have traveled to over the last few months have kept us really busy, which means that I have fallen behind not only on chatting with everyone here on YouTube, but also fallen behind on opening packages of comics that have, in spite of my busyness, continued to pile up, although at a far slower pace than usual. Usually I would, I used to be quite indiscriminate in my buying back in the days when I had a corporate job. My budget's taken a little bit of a hit since then, and I've had to be more prudent with my finances. But this is again where I must thank my patrons and channel members whose constant support has been like the thing that keeps the channel and the stuff that I want to do for the channel still going in spite of having all these other things. So what you see over here is, I would say, books that I have ordered over the last 4 months or so. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and even dozen packages, although 1 or 2 of these packages might contain more than one book. So over the last 4 months, that's say 3 books, 3 comics a month. That's not too bad. I mean, there are people in the chat who do more than that in a week, I'm sure. So I think this is me behaving myself, but still being funded and still being supported in a way that I really appreciate. So I thought what we could do today, and this is completely unscripted, shockingly, I know, this is completely unscripted. What I thought we'd do today is just catch up a little bit. I talk a little bit about what we've been up to, maybe answer a few questions if people are in the mood for that, and go through what we have over here and sort of make a mishmash of those things. And I think before I jump into these, I can give a little bit more context, but I'm going to take a quick look at some of the questions. Sleepy Reader, lovely to see you. Howdy and greetings. Sleepy Reader will be, hopefully, joining us for our final chapter on the Strangers in Paradise discussion coming up in the next couple of weeks that I mentioned. Sunflower CC2, thank you so much for the kind words. And your name is David, not far from Chicago. I travel to Chicago quite well, I wouldn't say quite often, but I try to get to Chicago once a year to visit my sister and my family over there. I would love to meet up with people in that area if it's possible the next time we're visiting. I have done that in the past before. It was sort of a surreal experience, but something that I really enjoyed, where a viewer of the channel and his brother and we met at a bookstore and shopped for comics for a while, and then just chatted about comics for. It was just a fantastic experience to do that in another country. Was, as I was saying, quite surreal. So I would love to meet up with anyone if I'm traveling. If you're not traveling to India, and of course if you're traveling to India and you're in New Delhi, I would love to meet up there as well. Of course, as I've been traveling across India and I've been traveling to various comics fests, I have met with people who know me from the channel, and it's been an absolute pleasure to meet and talk to so many of you here in India, and to be able to do that outside of India seems bizarre, but fantastically so. How does one find your comics? Oh, so our comics are available on indiansummerpress.com. We do international shipping, although I know shipping is really expensive internationally. We are exploring maybe better options, but right now I think we found a couple of good ones. So you can check out the website over there. We currently have UK, US, Canada shipping. We're also working with, these are great questions to start off with. We're also working with retailers in the Chicago area. For example, Quimby's was stocking our books, Challengers Comics and Conversation was stocking our books, Alley Cat was stocking our books. All of these bookstores I've made videos on. So if you go back a few months on this channel, you'll find little vlogs of us making trips and visiting comic bookstores in the Chicago area. And a lot of them stock my comic, the comic that we have published, and we hope will continue to stock them. The next time we visit, we'll see if they want to top up. We do know they're sold out in a couple of places, which gives us a big thrill as well. Although, to be perfectly honest, we didn't have that many copies over there. To selling out isn't as grand as it may sound, but it sounds good. So there's a couple of different ways to get it. You can get it directly from us, and we can find a way to get it to you, and maybe you'll stumble across it at a local bookstore. Australia is going to see our comics be stocked by Cockatoo Comics. At least one retailer in Australia is partnering with us, so we're extremely excited about getting the comic out and getting not just The Sun is Made of Silver, which is the comic that Nikhil Gulati and I are working on, but also the other comics that we have published and are looking forward to publishing, including The Complete Shampoo and Daddy, which is a book that we brought out just a month or so ago, and then the books that we've got coming out in the next couple of months. So I'm ready to talk about most of those things. Some of those things are not yet signed, so I don't know if it's prudent for me to talk about it. But that's another good thing about having your own business, I think, is that I can choose what I want to talk about, and I don't need permission from someone else. Although maybe I need permission from Ashwita in the chat over there, so I won't be too gregarious about my independence. Parikati, long time no see indeed. Good to see you. Lovely to have you here. Can I please create a list of comics one must read when who is starting to read comics? Okay, that's a great question. Hardcover of most comics are also costly in India. Yes, comics are costly. Comics are expensive almost everywhere. I wish there were libraries. I wish there were ways to borrow, but I think those kind of recommendations and curation therefore become more important, and that's one thing that I do take more seriously, is that it's expensive to buy comics, and I'd really like to recommend comics that have that mileage, that when you revisit them, you get more out of them. You can reread them many times. Those are things that I value very highly. In general, I think literature is sometimes defined, I've said this before, it's defined by a number of parameters. One of the parameters is how much revisitation it can take. So I do have a video. It's many years old now, but I think I stand by it. It's called the Top 10 Gateway Comics, the gateway comics for people getting into comics. So you should seek out that video. Most of the stuff on my channel is actually me recommending comics that I think people should read. And I think very often many of them can be gateways, because any comic can honestly be a gateway. Anything that is a good comic. I know people say that, well, you need something simpler, you need something standalone, and obviously they are right about those things. But I have myself, and I know other people who have encountered comics that are in the middle of a series, that are completely out of context, that are in media res in certain ways, that are extremely complex works of comics design and vocabulary, and have been hooked. There are people who have been hooked to comics, not just because of something simple, but because of something so complex that they didn't know the comics medium was capable of that. So almost anything can be a great comic to start with. Having said that, I think most of my top 10 lists are pretty good entry points. They're not really ranked, and that's not the point of them, but they're comics that I highly recommend. So, along with my top 10 gateway comics, you can check out my top 10 sci fi comics and the numerous honorable mentions and caveats I would have for that. You can check out the top 10 fantasy comics. You can check out the comics that I recommend in general, like comics like Bone and Usagi Yojimbo. These are things that I believe are appealing to a lot of people and many people. I wouldn't say everyone. It's the same thing that I feel about Day Tripper. It's the same thing I feel about Will Eisner. There are comics on my channel that I've talked about that might be more specific, but for the most, I think if you find a spotlight video by me, there's a good chance that it's a good read for someone just getting into comics. So I would say, because people asked me for recommendations and I had so many, I started a YouTube channel, and everything I put on this channel is a recommendation. Thanks, Ashwita, for sharing the email addresses. No, sorry, the website addresses. Parikatti has been following FTLOC activities on Instagram. Yes, excellent. And we were traveling, and we will travel again, especially for the Indie Comics Fest, which is a festival of indie comics in India that takes place in many cities, and we really want to visit as many iterations, as many chapters of that fest, because every city's fest is different. So Bengaluru is somewhere we'll be traveling to later this year. Kochi will be somewhere that we'll be traveling to later this year. Hyderabad will probably be traveling to. Last year we were able to get to, or at least one of us between Ashwita and I were able to get to Mumbai and Chennai. So Delhi, obviously, where we are based, is the place. So we do plan to do a fair amount of travel. Of course, I don't know how long that's sustainable because this is a research and fact finding and gathering, but travel is expensive. And we are not yet in our business, we are not yet at the point where the revenue from the comics allows for, or it doesn't cover the travel budget. We are good enough on covering the cost of goods sold and the taking off a table, and we've got a decent margin on that level. But once you start putting in travel, etc., we pretty much have to treat it as a research and R&D and marketing sort of spend, not one that is recovered now, but an investment, if you want to put it that way, for the future of finding out about people and finding out about markets and finding out about customers of different kinds, not just readers, but booksellers and retailers who we can work with and collaborate with. Can I get some Tintin facsimile editions? I mean, I don't know. Can you? I mean, from me, no, you can't have any of mine. But I don't know if those Tintin facsimile editions are still being made by Casterman. I think they may be out of print. The English ones, at least, are pretty hard to find. But I think the French language ones are not that difficult to find. So if you can get your hands on French language ones, if you're a fan of Tintin, it really doesn't matter. You've got the story kind of memorized. Although maybe not in those editions, now that I think about it. All right, let's see. I've talked a little bit about the business. I've talked a little bit about what we've been up to, and I'm sure that we can continue that. But what we've got over here now is this pile of books, as I was saying, that has come over the last few months that I have been unable to get to. And I did want to also this place was a mess because there were comics everywhere. And we put together a little comics pop-up bookstore, and we invited friends of ours to send their comics, and we had a little 4-day bookstore. So that was very exciting. But now our little apartment is full of not just our comics and the ones that we've printed and recently reprinted, but also everyone else's comics sitting in stacks everywhere. So I've been avoiding opening these before I had the mind space as well as the shelf space, honestly, to be able to put them. Otherwise, I would just I would lose track of where they were, and I wouldn't get around to reading them, which has happened in the past. So without further ado, let's get into opening some of these things. In keeping with the low profile nature of my setup today, I have this very tiny, elegant thing with just like one small little, I don't even think you can see it in focus. There's a tiny little tooth, and that's all you apparently need to cut this. Tape and cardboard. It's very sharp. I did cut myself very slightly the first time I used it. I think the ASMR should be at a different level today because of the different microphone setup. I hope it's not obtrusive. In fact, I hope it's pleasurable. The first package here is one of those that I believe has 2 books. And in this, over here, we have 2 volumes of Cuphead comics. This is volume 2 and this is volume 3. Volume 2 is Cartoon Chronicles and Calamities, and this is Colorful Crack-Ups and Chaos. Very similarly alliterative to the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror slipcases that you would have seen. And now these comics are by someone named Zach Keller, who I haven't encountered before. But the reason I picked these up is in one of these fairs that we shared a table because the table was expensive. We shared a table with a couple of other comics creators, and one of the others we were sharing the table with said, "Have you ever read any Cuphead comics?" And I was like, "No, I'm aware of Cuphead, the video game. My encountering of the video game is just for a very brief period. My nephew was playing it when I was visiting, and I saw the game, and it looked, first of all, extremely beautiful with a sort of retro animation style that was captured with incredible fidelity, and it looked extremely difficult. And after that, I found out that it is a notoriously difficult game, but it was the animation style and the colors and the accuracy with which that game had captured some of these old Betty Boop or slightly around that era animation that really struck me. And so when he showed me a comic based on that video game and keeping with that style, this is volume 1, I was immediately attracted to it. And then when I read through the comics, they were quite entertaining. They had a sense of comedy and a sort of tongue-in-cheek meta-ness that seemed to match what little I remembered about the video game. But the comics themselves were also very well produced. The printing, the colors were eye-catching, but they maintained an integrity with that sort of approach. And there was also a use of gradients that I found quite pleasurable. Usually, gradients in coloring can be a little off-putting, especially when it's got that sort of slapdash computerized feel to it. But these ones felt like texture. It almost felt like you could feel the bumps on the paper, even though the paper itself is glossy and smooth. And looking through this and reading through this, I enjoyed it quite a lot. And I picked this copy up after that recommendation, and after seeing his copy, I picked this up for about $6. So I thought this was a very cool pick up and a nice bargain and enjoyable. And the next time I logged on to Amazon, which is where I'd found it cheap, I was recommended volume 2 and 3, which I honestly didn't know existed. I thought there was just this one volume, although it does say volume one, but this is the only one that my friend had, the one that I'd seen. That's the one I got it. But then I saw that these two were also available, and so I decided to go ahead and snag them. Now, the first one was a fun read, and Zach, what was his name? Zach Keller has written and drawn this. I think Sean Dickinson does the. No, it's written by Zach Keller, and Sean Dickinson is the artist. Sorry. So Zach Keller's writing and Sean Dickinson's art combined really well. I had a really good time with the first one, and at this price, I couldn't really resist volumes 2 and 3, and their design as well has a charm to it, and I think the 3 books make a very handsome little set. Of course, just the visuals of it would amount to not that much if the stories weren't as fun. But as I said, the first volume did seem enjoyable to me, and I'm hoping that volume 2 and 3 are equally enjoyable. So that's the first thing over here. So I guess what I've got it over here is from the, I mean, I don't want to rank these, but I think they were going from the smallest to the biggest, and not just in size, but also as far as impact or my desire for them or how long I've been waiting. So I'm going to sort of save the best for last. Might do a little switching around over there, but I hope that makes sense. So hello from Chile, says the warrior. Good to see you. Art style reminds me of Disney's Silly Symphonies. Yes, indeed, very much of that era and that style. Although if you see the Cuphead video game and all the different enemies, the different bosses that Cuphead goes up against, they will remind you very much of. I'm not sure. It's not. It is Disney, but it's also something else. But it's not Hanna-Barbera. It's not Warner Brothers. I'm not. It's Betty Boop and a little after Betty Boop. I'm thinking of the soul coughing video for Rolling. It's got and the video game animation has a syncopation and a rhythm to it that really feels right on with the animation that it's getting. Of course, the comics don't have that same kind of rhythm, but I think they capture a certain energy and a vivacity of that. Sleepy Reader says, are there aspects of other comics you notice more now that you're a comics publisher yourself? I think it not yet. I think it's the other way around, really. It's that I want to take everything that I have noticed over the years as a reader, and I want to somehow bring it into the comics publishing, because I just know these things are possible. So as an example, and of course I should have gotten myself a copy of The Complete Shampoo and Daddy, but I know that die cutting is a thing, and I know that you can cut stuff out of paper, and I know you can cut holes in covers and do all of these things because I've seen them in books. So in a book that we published, the artist, in their self-published form of this book, there would be certain pages that she would burn with a lighter or with a match at the festival when she was selling the book, because the characters were burning the corner of the page. So she would burn that corner of the page, and every book would be separate. Now, when we wanted to print it, we obviously could not do that at a scale that isn't that first 1 or 2. Oh, thank you so much. Ashwita just brought me The Complete Shampoo and Daddy. This is a book written and drawn by Aditi Mali that is now published by Indian Summer Press. And it's a fantastic book about these two friends and their everyday anxieties and concerns. But these are the pages I'm talking about, where one of the characters sets fire to the corner of the page, and then it's something we got the printer to do for us at the printing level. But this is a thing that I know is possible. I'd never done it before. I'd never been involved with doing something like that before. But having seen it in other books, most recently in the Pascal Jousseline comic, do I even have it here? I might have it here. Yes, in Mr. Invincible, where I had seen, oh, look at that, I opened it. that the tearing of the page, because the acid gets spilled on it and then revealing the page behind. So I know that it can be done. So we were able to engineer, design, and do it that way. So I think the more I do this, it might work the other way around. But right now, I'm really basking in my 30 plus years of, or longer than that, years of reading comics and experiencing comics to say, oh, maybe that cover can have foil on it, or maybe that can be embossed if it was a hardcover, or maybe the copyright page can also have the dedication. They don't have to be on separate pages. These are just things from being a reader and being a sort of fanatical porer over of these comics pages over the years that I'm feeling that I'm going to be applying to the work that we do. So with this edition of Shampoo and Daddy, we also have guest art pinups in the back, just the way that The Sun is Made of Silver has letters to the creators in the back. There is an afterword by the author, and then you've got Debangshu Mollik and Roman Muradov giving art over here. And, Anand of Zoo fame has a pin-up over here as well. So these are just things that we have sort of absorbed through not just osmosis, observation, and devotion that we hope to be able to put into the work that we now publish. The look of the Cuphead comics reminds me of Felix the Cat cartoons. Yes, so Felix the Cat. There you go. That's another one of those names that I was trying to remember. Once again, if you're familiar with the video game, you'll know exactly what it is. But it's wonderfully done, and the stories have great energy. At least in the first chapter, the second and third chapters, the second and third volumes. These are a collection of short stories, so it's not a serialized sort of thing. It's great fun, and I think quite a fun discovery for me. I would never, I don't think, have picked up Cuphead comics by myself. And even when they were first mentioned to me, I think I was a little like, video game tie-in. I still have that. I still have that bias against tie-ins and licensed media. But of course, I'm finding more and more, and of course there are glorious exceptions, but I'm finding more and more that if you take the time and you give it proper respect, a lot of these comics can be very good comics as well, which people also point out to me about things that I may have ignored or continue to ignore, and they say, no, give that a chance, you'd be surprised. And I'm more likely to listen to them because I have found more and more such examples. It is diabolical, says Nihal. Yes, it's like Celeste or something like that. It's like one of those games that even if you haven't played, you hear about how tough it is. Hollow Knight or Silk Song being more recent examples. Is Shampoo and Daddy inspired by Mega Hex? No, I don't think it is. It's completely its own thing. I do think that I've said to Aditi that there are times when she reminds me of Simon Hanselman, but not really in the transgressiveness of what's being talked about, or the bad behavior, or even the anthropomorphization, but the sort of deadpan nature of some of the comedy. But Shampoo and Daddy is very much its own thing, and it's something that the very first time I looked at it and the very first time I read through some of these pages, I was immediately enraptured. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff, and you can find it on our website, available now. And this is also available in bookstores, in all fine independent bookstores across India right now. All right, moving on to the next thing. Yes, so now, just like Cuphead 2 and 3 are completing this set, I think, we've got some set completions or some set continuations coming up for the next couple of packages. Congratulations. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I got bronze medal. Thank you. There was Indian Comic Book Awards that were held yesterday, I believe, in Mumbai, in which I had the pleasure of being nominated, and I won a small little award, which is what people are talking about here. So thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for the kind words on the comic. The fourth chapter is in process and will be out soon. You can't rush a good thing, even though my editor keeps trying to. All right, moving on. This next package also has a volume 2, but this volume 2, unlike Cuphead, which I just encountered, found a copy of, read, liked it, and then bought volume 2 and 3 within the span of a month, this volume 2 is literally years apart from the first volume. We have over here The Autumn Lands, Volume 2, Woodland Creatures. This is written by Kurt Busiek and with art by Benjamin Dewey. The Autumn Lands by Kurt Busiek is a comic that I had picked up, as I said, many years ago. I'd read it once and I don't remember enjoying it. And I felt it was a shame because I'm a big Kurt Busiek fan, and Benjamin Dewey is someone whose art, wherever I've seen it, I have enjoyed. But I didn't enjoy The Autumn Lands, and I just put it aside, and it became a thing that I would mention. Like, when people say, has there ever been a comic? And then I would go through a certain list of comics that kind of disappointed you, or you don't want, you don't like some of these categories that come up like in 31 Days of Comics. And I believe I have mentioned The Autumn Lands every now and then as being one of those Kurt Busiek books that didn't quite click for me. Recently, and this is something else that I've been up to, I've been selling comics. For the first time in my life, I've actually sold comics and gotten rid of comics from my shelves. Part of this is a pure space requirement. I am getting more comics, and I am printing and reprinting comics. The house is filling up with comics. I need to clear out some space for all of this influx to have a place to go on. Some of it is financial. I could use the money to buy more comics now that I don't have a salary to spend on it, and Patreon money is going to be used for things like software licenses and stuff like that, as well as comics. So there were a number of reasons why, and I started selling comics, and a lot of these were old Marvel DC trades. There were a couple of absolute editions that I didn't want anymore. There were just things that I feel other people are going to enjoy more than I am. And in that process, I also went through a bunch of Image and Vertigo trades that were on my shelves. And many of them, and these are not like books I did not enjoy, many of them I enjoyed them so much that I'd ended up upgrading to the deluxe editions or to the hardcovers and things like that. And I still had volume 1 and 2 before I decided to switch, or volume 1 when I decided to try something. So there was a mixture of books and a number of volume 1s. Some of them were volume 1s that I tried and never wanted to continue with the series, and others were volume 1s that I tried and I liked, and I decided to get the series in hardcover or deluxe edition. And in going through these, I came across Autumn Lands, and I was going to throw it on the to sell pile alongside a bunch of others that I was selling. And then I just decided to read it again while I was in the process. It's another form of procrastination, of course. If you've ever tried to clean a bookshelf, you know that it could take months. So when I did that reread, this time I enjoyed it a lot more. I found myself a little bit more interested in it. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was mind-blowingly revelatory as something else, but it was like, I didn't know what I had been talking about. Had I misjudged it? Like, was I misremembering it? Or was I just in a bad mood when I'd originally read it? I didn't get it. So I was like, yeah, this is good, but now I've got a cliffhanger to deal with, and I should look for the second volume. So I went from trying to get rid of the first volume and considering selling it, so close to the guillotine its neck was, to where it has now instead been given a companion with volume 2 of the Autumn Lands, Woodland Creatures, now being purchased by me. I think this series is either complete or this is where it has stopped. I don't believe there is a volume 3. And I think I saw Sleepy Reader in the comments earlier, so I know that Sleepy Reader, and I've talked about this, where Sleepy Reader said that he had enjoyed it, and I said I hadn't. So, Sleepy, maybe you'll be happy to see that I'm giving this another shot, or I did give it another shot, and I found it changed, which is, now that I'm talking about it, it's like, yes, sometimes you have to sell comics, and I've never been one to sell comics, and I wasn't ever. It was also a hassle, and I didn't want to haggle with people, and shipping and all of that stuff has always been a problem. But now, with us going to the post office on a regular basis, and by us I mean Ashwata going to the post office on a regular basis to send our comics out, now we are a little bit more familiar with packing and mailing out stuff. Now we can fold it into this larger thing. And so therefore I tried it again. And this time the experience was quite pleasant. I had wonderful conversations with people and perfectly pleasant exchanges, and sold a bunch of comics. And that's a good thing, and I want to do more of it. But there is also this thing of, you never know. You might think that you don't like something, but years later you might find that you do. So that's sort of a counter to the whole lighten the load or make some room kind of area. Now there is this fear, like, oh my god, what if I sell something today and tomorrow I like it? But I I think we're capable of judging, and it's that kind of thing. Is when you're looking through it, you can remind yourself whether you want to try it or not. And sometimes there are books that you've never even gotten to reading, and that happens with prose, I think, more than with comics. And there, it's just like, how likely is it that I'm going to pick it up? With comics, you can just read it. I mean, the comics don't take that long to read, I think, unless you're talking about The Complete Strangers in Paradise. But I think it was good that I gave Autumn Lands another shot, and I liked it. And there were other things that I tried to see, other books that I sold that I looked through and I reminded myself of, and they didn't appeal to me. So they went off to people who, better homes, places where people would appreciate them more than I would. Okay, so hello and congrats again. Thank you, Arindam. Autumn Lands was never completed. Oh goodness, are you telling me that this also ends on a cliffhanger, Sleepy Reader? Well, it's okay. I enjoyed the first volume enough to want to read the second volume, and it wasn't too expensive. Hello from West Bengal. Good to see you. Have you come across the new Ben 10 comics from Dynamite? No, I haven't. I'm not big. I mean, like, I was too old for Ben 10, so I don't have that association. But I know that Dynamite usually reboots things and makes them more fun or gritty or something like that. I mean, I know the Flash Gordon and Phantom Dynamite reboots were well regarded by many people. I think I even may have read the first couple of Flash Gordon issues from Dynamite. So if it's one of those, made serious, I can be 50-50 on it. I mean, I wouldn't have thought I would have enjoyed a Flintstones comic, but then when I read Mark Russell's Flintstones, so again, I'm not going to prejudge anything. Maybe if I come across the Ben 10 things, but let me know if you think the Ben 10 is at the level of the Flintstones or something like that. Commandy and Jack Vance inspired. Which one is this? Ooh, is this the which one are you talking about, Sleepy Reader? Are you talking about Autumn Lands, or are you talking about Ben 10? Because I've got the chronology over here. Yes, Commandy and Jack Vance inspired would be Autumn Lands, I guess. Ritika, good to see you. Good, and yes, I'm very glad you could catch it live. Guys, like the video. Thank you so much for plugging that, Ritika. Yes, please. If you're watching right now and you haven't hit the like button, please do go ahead and do that so that other people can find this live stream now as well as later in the recordings. Deva Protein asks, where do you sell comics? I used to try to sell comics on Facebook comics groups that I was part of. Now I have mainly sold over WhatsApp. I'm a member of a couple of WhatsApp comics groups for selling comics. That's where I've got. I don't know if there are other places I should be. If you know other places I should be at, let me know. I'll cross post across multiple things. Now that we're in the sales zone, I have completely come out of my shell and become a much more proactive person. And I mean, this doesn't mean that like someone asking me for my facsimile editions of Tintin. Those aren't for sale. I'm not going to be selling everything, but I do think things like the Absolute Authority. I should never have bought the Absolute Authority. I don't know what I was thinking. I had a lot of nostalgia for the Authority because way back in the day when Stormwatch and Authority, I first encountered them, they kind of blew my mind. I didn't know comics were doing that kind of stuff. The last I knew was the stuff I'd read when I was younger, when I was a kid. So that nostalgia got me to buy the Authority Absolute editions at a decent enough price or something. But I just don't think I am of the temperament to enjoy to enjoy that anymore. What other books did I get rid of? Again, this is not judgment, as I said. About half of them were books I like so much that I have them in hardcover or deluxe edition, and that's where I went. But there were things like, I don't know, Grant Morrison's The Filth. Someone else is going to enjoy it a lot more than I am. I gave it a read back in the day. I bought it and I read it, and I don't believe I'll be reading it again. So off it goes. Yes, Sleepy Reader, you were referring to the Autumn Lands. I mean, it made sense to me eventually as I heard myself talk aloud. Parika T asks, any plans to publish your comics as a TPB once all 6 chapters are done? Yes, once all 6 chapters are done, we will not reprint these nice little 100 GSM bond paper sort of issues anymore. They'll be limited, and we'll probably put it together as a graphic novel. It is planned as a graphic novel. It is a mini series that's a graphic novel. It's not a continuing series. It hasn't been written that way. The story that Nikhil and I have in our minds and that we've worked out is complete in that 6 parts. The 6th part might be double the length of the previous parts. It might be 48 pages instead of the 24 pages the previous 5 chapters would have been, but it is a complete story, and we will bring it out as a 1 volume. Now, will it be a trade paperback or will it be a hardcover? A lot of these are financial sort of questions about production, etc., that we continue to debate and will continue to debate until we come to that time of reprinting. But yes, the plans are definitely to bring something out that will be from then on the version of that story with the singles going, out of print. All right, moving on to the next one. What do we have? I'm going to see whether I'm maintaining the right order. Yeah, I believe I am. Continuing with finishing series or getting the next volume in the series. This is the 4th latest volume of Beasts of Burden, the supernatural canine feline investigative comic series from Evan Dorkin. The first volumes had art by Jill Thompson. This has Benjamin Dewey of the Autumn Lands. What a coincidence. That was not planned, but Benjamin Dewey is one of the artists of the new Beasts of Burden series, which started with Eldrick. What was it called? It's back there somewhere. I wasn't aware that Occupied Territory was out as one of these lovely slim hardcovers from Dark Horse. I do have the previous 3. Beasts of Burden is a comic series that I absolutely love. I have loved for many years. I think I do have. Yes, I did name Beasts of Burden as one of my top 5 Dark Horse comics. If you've seen that video, my top 10 or top 5 Dark Horse comics, written by Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dyer, art by Benjamin Dewey in this one. So not Jill Thompson's painted art, but fantastic art nonetheless. This is the new revived. I think Jill Thompson did not wish to continue or could not continue with Beasts of Burden. Evan Dorkin continuing with Benjamin Dewey. So this is different from the first 2 volumes, but if you enjoyed the 3rd volume, which I did, and I continue to really like this series, Beasts of Burden. I recommend this very highly. If you have never read any Beasts of Burden, I think all of these books are still in print. They're still available. I love slim hardcovers. It's, as I've said, it's my favorite. It's my favorite format. I would highly recommend you try out Beasts of Burden, at least one volume, and give it a shot. You might find yourself surprised. Okay, so see, we're moving along quite quickly. Another one, so that was Beasts of Beasts of Burden Volume 4. So I've got Autumnlands Volume 2, Cuphead Volume 2 and 3, Beasts of Burden Volume 4, and now we've got a series ender. This is the last volume of the series that I've been looking for a while, and then it was surprisingly easy to get. So I'm not really sure why it took me this long to get. Sometimes it's just a question of forgetting that you were reading something. But I've talked about Brandon Graham's Prophet on a number of occasions. And in my last haul video, when I was visiting my sister in the United States, I picked up Volume 4, but I was unable to find Volume 5, Earth War. Earth War is a sort of mini-series that was published after the main series and after a bit of a break. So it is a coda in some ways, but it is an ending to the story. And this is something that I had not been able to find before, and now I have. Brandon Graham's Prophet is one of my favorite sci-fi comics, definitely one of my favorite, like one of those things that get stuck in your head and capture your imagination and you kind of run with it, and everything that is put in front of you can have more echoes and more shadows of it around it, which is what I love about it. So I'm excited to finally finish and put onto the shelves next to the other four Brandon Graham's Prophet, which has art by, I believe, Simon Roy for the most. I don't know if Earth War has any stories illustrated by Brandon Graham himself. They do, so I can see that his name is there under art. So I'm a fan of Simon Roy's art on this series as well as Brandon Graham's art in general. So that is Prophet Volume 5 and the last volume of Brandon Graham's run. And keeping with that is the next one over here, which is also a comic by Brandon Graham, and also a comic I talked about in my last haul video when I was, the same one that I was referring to before. This is Volume 2 of Moonray, which is, I think, one of the most recent Brandon Graham comics, and one that I picked up a couple of months ago and greatly enjoyed. I didn't want to, I've been trying to be good, in which I don't just buy all the volumes of something. I read something and then get the next volume, then read it, then get the next volume. At least I try to do that, although my example of Cuphead just shows you that I don't stick to it very well. But at least I read the first one first and then I got 2 and 3. So I didn't want to get 2 until I had tried Moonray and seen if I liked it. And Moonray was a comic that I enjoyed, but then I wasn't sure. And then I read it again and then I enjoyed it, which has happened on a number of occasions with Brandon Graham. There have been books that have immediately captured me. I think King City is one of them, and I think Prophet is one of them. And then there have been, and Rain Like Hammers was one of them. And then there have been others like Multiple Warheads that I needed a second read of as well. And that was not necessarily, like, I didn't have any serious doubts about Moonray, but the second read of it was a lot of fun, was something that I got a lot of pleasure out of. And so therefore I was ready and excited to go and pick up Volume 2, which I think I got at a very decent price, given how expensive it could have been. So this is another nice hardcover from Living the Line. For some reason, I thought it was Image, but that's not. It Image is Prophet, and this is just fantastic, weird sci-fi, the kind of combination of heady and silly. And well, this is not as silly as some of the other stuff, but there's a certain looseness and there's a certain goofiness even when it's very serious, that I really enjoy about Brandon Graham sci-fi. He's one of my absolute favorites, in a way that it's just very, very much about how my brain reacts to his vocabulary and his showing and telling combination. It's something that I've said, that he's equally adept at showing as he is at telling, and he just knows perfectly when to do which one. And it's something that works for me fantastically. So very excited and very happy to have the second volume of Moonray, the first volume of which I enjoyed. So Brandon Graham, a twofer, a fest of Moonray and the conclusion of Prophet with Earth War. Ritika Stram says, "Love Moonray." Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Volume 2. I believe there's more, so there must be Volume 3 already out, or I think I saw the cover, or maybe a pre-order, some sort of thing. But I think there's more Moonray out there. Yeah, DOG did the math, says, "I really enjoyed these first two volumes." All right, first two. So that means that there's going to be more. Among my favorite sci-fi artists, mine too, because I really, as I said, he captures my imagination and he infects my brain. And even after I've put the comic down, I can see those images and I can hear those things and I can extrapolate from them. He'll give you one little thing and then you kind of build the world around it. He's very good at doing those kind of things, and it's that sort of thing that I think I have responded to in his work, over and over again. All right, moving on. What do we have? We've got a couple of different. No, this one is another one that is a completion sort of volume. This is a volume 3 of a book. I can see now that a number of these are continuations, and this is in some ways a follow-up to my haul video, because all of these books are books whose first volumes or initial volumes I think I talked about in, or at least one of the initial volumes that I talked about in that one. This is no different. Over here we have volume 3 of Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto. And Matsumoto's, let me get you. Matsumoto's art is incredibly evocative for me ever since I read Sunny, which I think might still be my favorite Matsumoto. I've sought out as much of his comics, of his manga that I can, and read them. Some of them have, I think Sunny is still my favorite. I think there have been a couple that I've not been 100% on, and they didn't capture my heart, although I loved reading them just for looking at the art maybe, but the characters in Sunny and the way that story broke my heart hasn't necessarily been done in, say, which is the one I'm thinking of. Go-Go Monster was good. Ping Pong was excellent. Number 5 was the one that I'm not sure of, and I don't know if I ever finished reading it. But when I started reading Tokyo These Days, Volume 1, I only got Volume 1 for the same reason. I was like, I'm not sure if I'll want Volume 2 and 3. And then, of course, the production and the handsomeness of these volumes are very reminiscent of the editions of Sunny that Viz brought out. But I loved Tokyo These Days, Volume 1. Then I got Volume 2 and I read it, and that one I loved as well. And so Volume 3, I haven't let me take that back. I haven't finished reading volume 2, but I've loved what bit of it I have read, and I ordered volume 3 immediately because, again, this time I got worried, what if they go out of print? Although I don't think I've seen Matsumoto go out of print in the same way that I've seen some other comics go. I think Sunny's 6 volumes, even at these wonderful hardcovers and at decent prices, are still easily available to everyone. I think Go-Go Monster was out of print for a while and then got reprinted. But Sunny is fantastic. Tokyo These Days, I think I'm not sure if it's autobiographical or semi-autobiographical, but it has a very lived-in feel, and it's got this sense of despondency and a sense of sadness, and at the same time, there's this real beauty in the way that people express themselves and the way that they don't in this story. It's lovely stuff, and I'm very happy to continue reading Matsumoto, and Tokyo These Days has one of my high recommendations. Is another one of my favorite artists, says DOG did the math. Number 5 and... so number 5 is one of your favorites. Tekonkincrete is one that I have not yet read. That one I need to try, and I think I should go back and give number 5 another try. I got Ping Pong but haven't read it yet. Ping Pong was great. I had a lovely time with it, and the velocity and the physicality of that comic is terrific. Now, I think we've got after all of these continuation or completion sort of volumes, I think now we're going to get into a couple of standalone volumes. And first of all, I have something that I'm quite excited about from Australian comics artist Campbell White. This is Luna Express. I have been following Campbell White's Luna Express on Instagram in like one page at a time every now and then. I mean, like I get to see it every now and then. The colors of this are fantastic. But Campbell White is someone whose home time I read some years ago, and I was incredibly impressed by that. I made a video, when I paired it with Jean Luen Yang and Guru Hiru's Superman Smashes the Klan, where I talked about 2 significant works of all ages comics, and Home Time and Superman Smashes the Klan both were, in my opinion, masterpieces for very different reasons and in very different ways. And the 2 volumes of Home Time, the hardcover volumes of Home Time, were sent to me by Top Shelf. And I thought they were fantastic. I thought it was a sad and beautiful story. It had this melancholy in it, but it also had all these different art styles that represented different characters' internal lives externally, like they saw the world and the world was the way they felt. And it was this Narnia type of thing, but again, very different and a very non-traditional way of doing that sort of familiar children's story. So I've been waiting for the next thing that Campbell White does. In fact, there are a lot of Australian comics artists whose works I've been so impressed by that I've sort of gotten on the bandwagon of waiting for the next thing that they do. And Luna Express is the next one, also published by Top Shelf Comics. And this is a I mean, I don't know if you can see it. There's glitter sort of on the cover. This seems very, very elegantly designed. The colors in it are incredible, vibrant, and I know that this is a sort of Sailor Moon type of, and I'm not familiar with Sailor Moon. I'm just talking about the way that I've seen this described. But between crummy day jobs and nights out on the town, Celeste and her friends can barely find time to use and abuse their magical powers. So it's this incredible hodgepodge of a reluctant team that's battling land sharks, roller skating, disco mushrooms, mind-bending art exhibitions, and their own personal drama. It's it's just something about Campbell White's earlier work made me realize that this is a person who takes a very different approach to what could be thought of as, what you would get from the description of the story. And the description of the story itself is so bizarre and so interesting, where it's these superpowered girls and nightclub life and fighting monsters and evil villains with plots, etc., in a very Australian set environment and tone and language and art style. It's just something I've been looking forward to. Campbell White, in fact, did get in touch with me because we've communicated briefly in the past when I did the home time video, and wanted to send me a copy of the book, but I saw that it was available over here and just ordered it myself. So I'm looking forward to sinking my teeth into this standalone, big fat, well, it's not huge, but it's nice and chunky, 220 plus, 260 pages of Luna Express. Okay, what's next? I think I'm going to save this one for last because I know what that one is. This one is probably the biggest gamble on this, because every one of these, well, especially the ones which are continuing parts, etc., I know I'm going to like them because I liked the previous volumes. And then with Campbell White, I know I loved Campbell White's previous work and I'd seen it online, so I had an idea about it. This one is the closest thing to a blind purchase that I have, although it's not completely blind because I am familiar with the writer artist. But not in a great way. This is Maurice Vellekoop and his memoir, I'm So Glad We Had This Time Together. This Maurice Vellekoop is someone whose comics I've only seen in anthologies, so the Drawn and Quarterly or the early 90s, mid 90s stuff, which Art Spiegelman and Spain, and there are a number of comics out there that are whose creators I've encountered in the pages of magazines and anthology magazines, and then found works by including Richard Sala and people who've grown to be some of my favorite creators. Maurice Vellekoop's work I have encountered over there, but I've never sought out a longer work or even actually seen a longer work. And this is a huge let's see how many pages this is, if I can tell. It's it's like 484 pages from Pantheon Graphic Novels, and it was on incredible sale on Amazon for as I don't know, as a remnant of one of those sales that I think I had a previous live stream on. This is a color comic, and it is an autobiography. But other than that, I have very, very little knowledge about this. And I actually know very little about Maurice Vellekoop, other than those comics that I read in magazines a very long time ago. And this is what, as I said, this is one of the blindest things, because I remember liking what I had read of his, but to then put it down for a 480-page autobiography, but the reviews of it were good. When I'm looking through it, it's just like, it's fantastic. The art is, it reminds me of what I enjoyed about his stuff in those magazines. I think there are influences, and I'm trying to think whether I've seen him side by side with Seth, but I think he's a precursor to Seth. So a lot of early Seth also reminds me of this, like the stuff you see in the first issue of Palookaville or the second issue of Palookaville maybe. But other than that, I have no idea how this is going to be, but the price was right. What is this, a $35 list price that I got for very cheap? But it's really the reviews and the reputation of this artist that made me pick this up. And I'm, again, looking forward to seeing how my gamble paid off. Andrew says, I recently read that Vellekoop. Oh, wait, sorry. Have I been saying Vellekoop? Vellekoop, sorry. Vellekoop, and it left me literally speechless on how great it was, yet impossible to describe why. Wow, that's a good endorsement and a mysterious one. So I'm automatically more intrigued by this now. This does look like a bit of a tome, which I guess all of the remaining ones are. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Okay, now we're in the sort of home stretch sort of area. We've got 1, 2, 3, and these ones are big ones. So let's go with this. What we have over here, this is another one of those boxes that has 2 books in it. Actually, it's not 2, it's 3 books, as you'll see why. But they're very different from each other. It's funny that this one package would contain both of these. I'm trying to also figure out, this one box is a little bit more complexly packed. Yeah, fine television, this. All right. I think this is why you make unboxing videos as edited videos, but here we go, finally. So yes, what we have over here, an unlikely pairing is, and someone had just mentioned Mega Hex earlier on this, is Werewolf, Jones and Son, and Karl Barks' Donald Duck. So strange bedfellows, although anthropomorphized animals abound. Werewolf, Jones and Son Deluxe Summer Fun Annual, a nice hardcover of about 100 pages from Fantagraphics. This is one that was quite difficult to get my hands on because, I mean, it wasn't in stock, and I just didn't think something like this was coming here, although some of the larger books have been available, but Werewolf, Jones and Sons wasn't, and until one day that it was. So luckily I had it on my wish list with that notify me if it ever comes into stock, etc. I got that notification and I jumped on it and immediately ordered it. For those of you who know, Simon Hanselman and the Meg Mog, Owl, Werewolf Jones comics, you don't need me to say anything else. For those of you who don't, I do have a video. I think it's one of my end of year videos in which I talk about 4 people I got to know a little better that year. One of them was Breccia, one of them was Paco Roca, and one of them was Simon Hanselman. So, and I've made like a short little thing on Simon Hanselman comics as well. So I'm really looking forward to this Deluxe Summer Fun Annual. I think there are a bunch of Simon Hanselman now suddenly that I don't have. Crisis Zone is one of them. This is one of them. And then I think there's a third book. So there were 3 books after the last one I had gotten that had come out that I need to get my hands on. This is the first of them. The other 2 will have to follow, probably on my travels if I can't get my hands on an affordable copy over here. Ritika says, on my recommendation, you read Seconds and enjoyed it thoroughly. The publishers have amazing books like PTSD. So the Seconds would be the Brian Lee O'Malley book, and I think Seconds was also published by Oni Press, or was it published by someone else? I don't know if I know PTSD, but I'll look that up. And then we have one of the 2-in-1 slip-cased hardcover box sets of the Disney Karl Barks library brought out by Fantagraphics. I've been collecting these Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge volumes since the year they started. So what is it now, 15, 16 years? I've been getting 2 books a year. Has it been 2 books a year or 4 books a year? Sometimes I fall behind and then I have to catch up, which is what I'm doing now because I'd kind of fallen behind. But in some cases, I had 1 book and then I didn't have the second one and then I saw that they were put together in a box set, and whenever possible I like to get the box set. So this is another one of those cases where Balloon Attics is a book that I owned. Duck Luck is not a book that I owned. So what I did was I sold Balloon Attics because I wanted this. Now this wasn't, so it's kind of an upgrade. It's not really going to recover the cost. It's more like it's subsidizing the cost. The cost of this box set is a little bit more than the cost of these two books put together here in India. I don't know if in the US it's a bargain to buy the box set. In India, the box set costs a little bit more, a little bit more. But I was luckily able to sell my Donald Duck. I, in fact, sold a number of Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge hardcovers in order to get the 2-volume box sets wherever I could. So I was getting rid of one and then getting that same one and another one for a little bit more price back in. So not really good financial movement, but wonderful for the library. So here we have Donald Duck's Balloon Attics and Duck Luck by Carl Barks in the 2-volume set. There was another one that I had gotten a couple of weeks ago, which I've opened and put up there. And then there is another one right over here. Did I hit something? Am I still broadcasting? Am I still live? I think I am. Okay. I hit the keyboard with the box, and that would have been hilarious if I had chucked myself out of my stream in my enthusiasm to get to my tall box volumes. And this one is the Uncle Scrooge box, because I mean, as much as I love the Donald Duck, and I do love the Donald Duck, Uncle Scrooge is my favorite character, is my favorite Barks comics as well. There are some great Donald comics, and there are some indifferent Uncle Scrooge comics. So I'm not at all saying it's a blanket thing, but this is the one that I was really looking forward to. This is Cave of Ali Baba and the Golden Nugget Boat. The Cave of Ali Baba and the Golden Nugget Boat are both books that I had missed getting. So this is a pure, like, I didn't have to sell or trade any component of this to get this. So Uncle Scrooge, this, I don't know if they're putting the numbers on them now, but no, but you'll find the order. They haven't put them out in order, but I think the box sets do have them. The box sets do have them chronologically. So once you have all of them, I'm not going to have all of them. There are many box sets that I've missed. But going forward, I do have all of the Don Rosa box sets. I think all but the first two. The first two are in this thing, but I got the box sets, and I've got many of the box sets of the Donald Duck. Not so many of the Uncle Scrooge, so I'm very happy to have one of this, at least one of the Uncle Scrooge box sets. So, Cave of Ali Baba, The Golden Nugget Boat by Carl Barks, Uncle Scrooge, 2-in-1 box set, and the Balloon Attics, Duck Luck, Donald Duck box set. Although, of course, Uncle Scrooge does show up in some of these Donald stories as well. Although he's a very different type of Uncle Scrooge right at the beginning. He's not the more likable one that we end up with, the one that DuckTales kind of is based on. There is a lot there. So once I have all of these, I think it'll be interesting to read them in a particular order because they're just so far apart. But it's also a massive task now that I think about it, is who's going to sit down and read all of these in a single order. So I think it's better to read them 2 a year, because I think something like the Complete Peanuts, you can do that because they're newspaper strips, but even that would take you, it would take you literally a year if you read nothing else. And I think that would get a little bit boring. So I really like having these box sets, but I also think one should open them and read them as you go and not wait until they're done in order to start reading them, which I don't think will be that much fun. On which website do I sell my all used comics? Yeah, as I was telling somebody, I don't use a website, although maybe I should. I don't know. Give me some suggestions on how I should sell my comics in India. Those of you who are in India, people who live abroad have so many options, with eBay and groups and taking it to your local comic book store and stuff like that. We don't really have much options. We've got to kind of create our own, like just with comics, like the way that we're finding out as publishers is you can't rely on the distribution that exists because it's not really geared for you. You sort of have to try to do your own distribution in many ways, and that's not just book sales, as in that's not just to bookstores and getting in touch with bookstores and finding the right partners there, but also to do things like pop-ups and festivals and taking tables at other festivals in an effort to get your work out. So maybe it's the same thing. It's like there should be a way, although I don't know how many people are actually, is there really a big group of people selling comics in India? Or most people looking to buy comics and looking to buy comics cheap? Because comics are not cheap. And I think even people who sell their comics secondhand, they sell them to subsidize the buying of more comics, of buying other comics, which I like as an idea. As I was saying earlier, you get it to someone who is going to enjoy something that you're not going to enjoy. But if there are forums, let me know. This is really, really solidly packed. So this is the first time that I'm having to struggle quite a bit with this, but I'm almost there. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm sure the noises are irritating. This is a large book, but this is also a continuation or a series ender. This is the final volume of, oh my gosh, so rolled up. Comic Crack, good to see you. Look at me. I'm unwrapping bubble wrap for the last 5 minutes. Oh my god, this is like double the thickness of the book itself. This is, I appreciate the care, and I do like this particular online bookseller, bookswagon.com. In India, I try to do very little shopping on Amazon, especially for books, and Bookswagon has great prices. I go to Amazon when there are huge sales, but otherwise I think everyone who buys books and comics, most people in the know use Bookswagon. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I wish. I mean, if anyone knows people at Bookswagon who want to sponsor me, please let them know that this entire video was like a big pile of Bookswagon. This is the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, the ominous omnibus volume 3, the fiendish fables of devilish delicacies. This is the third and final volume of the Treehouse of Horror slipcased hardcover large format deluxe editions. And then we've got what were the other two? They're back there somewhere. So bedtime stories, and you would have seen the first one I made a video on, and that video is up there. The Treehouse of Horror is a fantastic compilation anthology series with some really incredible contributors. In this volume, let's see. Okay, so here's the name list. Xander Cannon, Gene Colan, Dan DiCarlo, Garth Ennis, Gilbert Hernandez, Carol Lay, Thomas Lennon, Doug Munch. I always forget how his name is pronounced. I think it's Munch. Doug Mensch, Phil Noto, Stan Sakai, Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson, Rob Zombie, Marv Wolfman, and many, many more. For those of you who weren't aware that these artists and others had worked on The Simpsons, it's the Treehouse of Horror. This comics anthology had the guest artists and guest writers. The normal Simpsons comics from Bongo Comics, I think every volume that I've gotten has been a lot of fun and very enjoyable, sort of a good standard, like standard makes it sound bad. Like it's always of a certain quality. You don't find anything that's terrible. But the Treehouse of Horror, these ones are something else altogether, which is why they've gotten these deluxe treatments from Abrams Comics Arts. This is something that was originally pointed out to me by Arindam Sen, who was in the comments a little while ago, who said, "Do you guys know who has done stuff for the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror comics?" And then when these editions came out, it was like someone had also taken cognizance of like exactly what was going on in this series. So over here, the third and final copy is here. In fact, I should probably put it away for right now because we'll be traveling tomorrow and I'll have this other ways, but it'll go right there. Hold on, I'll be right back. It always depends, but in these cases, the book spines are out, the box spines are in. Now I'll have to find a new place for Alpha. The second or third volumes of this have never come out in English, I think. So this one's going to have to go to a standalone shelf now that the series over there has been completed. So that's pretty much everything except for the last book, which is probably don't get me wrong, all of these are anticipated books, and some of these books, especially the ones that are continuing the series, are very anticipated. And the Barks volumes obviously are things that I really look forward to. But this is a book that I've been waiting to get my hands on because everyone I know has praised it, and every work, or at least the couple of works or by this artist that I've encountered before, have been wonderful and mind-blowing. And then this is supposed to be their grand opus, and it went out of print, I think, or it was in a very limited print run, and now it has been reprinted. This is Drome by Jesse Lonergan. This is 23rd Street, so this is the new imprint, or the new part of First Second, the adults section of First Second is now all young readers' work, I believe. And Jesse Lonergan's Drome is one of the flagship titles, or one of the launch titles of 23rd Street, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen pages of this online. I've seen pages shared by people. I'm obviously aware of Lonergan's skills in page layout and design, but also, not just as a gimmick, but sort of using them in storytelling. And I really enjoyed Hedra. Like, I know a lot of people did, and then some other people didn't enjoy it as much. This is a book that even people who may not have thought as highly of other works as I did, thought very highly of. So I'm very excited to get this, to finally get my hands on this. And I think this might be of all of these books over here, even though I've got thin books that can be read fast, like the Beasts of Burden volume or Moonray, things like that. This might be the one that I want to get to next. I do have a couple of books that have been lent to me by a friend, including Tongues by Anders Nielsen, which is also a big fat tome. And I started reading it over at his place, and then he lent it to me. So I'm trying to decide now which one my next read should be. Should it be Drome or should it be Tongues? Because they're both going to take up they're both going to take up a certain amount of time, and certainly a certain amount of brain space. I think there'll be fans of Drome in the comments over here. The contents say blue, red, yellow, form, spirits. Even the table of contents, look at that design. It's so elegant. It's lovely. It's lovely. I'm so happy to have this. I really thought this had gotten away from me, and I couldn't believe that it's a lot. It's on a lot of people's and a lot of publications' end of year lists, as was Tongue's for that matter. Now that I think about it, and a lot of people said this was one of the best comics of the year, and I just couldn't believe that it would be out of print and unavailable, which didn't make sense to me at all given the popularity. I think it was just a question of being sort of unprepared with a smaller print run and then needing to get a second print run done. But this is, oh, what a lovely book. And I know you can't feel it, but very, very nice paper quality, fantastic color reproduction. There's a nice little off-white nature to this paper. The colors are not super saturated. They're definitely vibrant, but they also have this muted pastel-like quality, which I'm really enjoying over here. And then of course you've got Lonergan's amazing page layouts and the way he works with time and space, evident even in this, like just going through it like this in a very perfunctory manner. Yay, Treehouse, Arindam is here. Yes, absolutely. Your recommendation, all the way. Drome, such a great book, Comic Crack. Yes, I know. I think this is also something that you've gotten, like I know I heard all of you talk about it, and I was feeling this major FOMO, especially having enjoyed Lonergan's earlier work so much. I was like, why did I wait on it? Why did I sleep? This is one of those things. Usually I'm not like, oh, I have to get it first day, etc. But when you see that out of print situation, I think that's where that FOMO fear really kicks in. That's why you don't want to do it ever again. But I think Drome is one of those things is where I'm just like, I think Arindam saying Drome always seems to go out of stock when I'm looking for it. Yeah, it's gone out of stock on a couple of occasions. It's nothing as bad as something like the Eternaut or something that went, I think, 15 years between reprints in each case. But I hope it's back in stock now or something. But you should definitely grab it when you can, because for some reason, or not for some reason, for very good reason, I think this is the book that keeps that's got a lot of demand behind it, and it seems to be selling out very quickly. Yes, adding it to your TBR, good stuff. It does look very interesting, Diogenes the Man. Yes, I think it's largely wordless. I haven't seen any speech balloons, etc., which is the same as Hedra, which was a one shot, and it was a sort of, I think it was a magazine sized or slightly smaller than magazine sized one shot. This is an absolute, hefty hardcover volume. Spine, just beautiful to look at. But yes, so I think I've made a giant mess of cardboard and bubble wrap over here that I'll have to deal with now. But as a quick recap to what we were going through, I will take a peek behind the dust jacket. All right, Comic Crack, since you say so, here's the dust jacket. And oh, I say, this is what Comic Crack is talking about. This is what we have behind the dust jacket. That's just, wow, beautiful. Let me take all of this. This is the book. A vibrant blue and red scheme. End pages, and even the end papers has a very slight grid over there. I think, maybe you can just about make it out if you enlarge the screen on a desktop computer or something like that. Just absolutely gorgeous design, wonderful production all around. Just a beautiful book in so many senses of the word. And I haven't even read it yet, so that's just the the fanboying of this. There's some other Jesse Lonergan, and folks in the comments can leave this. There was a Jesse Lonergan book that's going on right now. I think it's is it with Mignola? I think it might be with Dark Horse, but it's coming out in single issue form. And that one, whatever I've seen online, also looks very good. did you read Big Questions by Anders Nielsen? I started Big Questions once and I kind of got intimidated, but I really need to get into it because Anders Nielsen is one of those people whose books I've, sort of known about and seen and kind of hemmed and hawed about and then kind of skipped over and gone to something else. I don't know why. Maybe I'm intimidated. Maybe I'm worried I won't be smart enough to understand them. Or maybe I'm worried that I'll be bored and that'll mean I'm not smart enough. But I really should. I really should take a look because everything I've seen by Anders Nielsen, especially extracted in things like the Best American Comics anthologies, etc., has been interesting. It's just when it comes to those books, I've never picked them up with tongues. I'll see how it goes because I was immediately drawn into it when I started reading it. And that might be a good one to do as my first full lengthy read through. Then maybe try Dogs with Water because that is the one that whose extracts I really enjoyed in anthologies, and then make my way to Big Questions. All right, so Miss Truesdale, thank you, Arindam. That's the one I was trying to think of. And Man's Best wrapped with 4 issues. Is that a collaboration of Lonergan with someone, or is it a solo work? Hedra was magazine size. There's a gorgeous EU hardcover edition. Don't tell me about gorgeous EU hardcover editions. I'm happy enough with my thing. I don't want to know about more double dips and expensive hardcovers that I might need to import from Europe. So we've got over here as a recap. Uh, uh, you did enjoy the Eternaut? Yes, it's a fantastic comic. I think the Eternaut is a comic that really stands the test of time, and I'm glad that whether it's for the Netflix adaptation or whatever, I'm glad that there's been a resurgence in interest in that, and there's been a reprinting of it. I've seen a bunch of people in India sort of seek it out and chase it like a grail. Some part of it might just be this collector mentality, but hell, if it gets a good comic read, a 1950s comic from Argentina being read in 2026 in India by so many people, I think that just itself is a miraculous sort of thing. Yeah, so I think that's a great comic, and I'm very happy that it's back in print and available. Of course, it doesn't stay in print very long, so if you haven't snagged a copy of the Eternaut, you should absolutely go for it, as you should go for a copy of Drome, which it took me a while to get my hands on and is finally here. So that's one. Then 2 box sets of two books each. We've got Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck. Uncle Scrooge being the city of Alibaba and the Golden Nugget Road. Donald Duck being Duck Luck and Balloon Attics. Then we've got Werewolf Jones. I put the Simpsons 3rd volume of the Treehouse. Oh, with the Treehouse, I think I saw somewhere, maybe it was just on Amazon because I don't go through solicitations, but I think they're bringing out a box set with all 3 of them in one slipcase, which is kind of cool. Like, I think the 3 slipcases, 3 books is my preferred way of having it. But in case any of them are out of stock or out of print, or if you want to save a little bit more space by having 3 books in one slipcase, that's the way to go. I think the interior books are going to be the same. It's just going to be one slipcase with all 3 books in it together. So I believe that's coming out sometime soon. So we've got 2 slipcases over here. We've got Werewolf Jones and Sons Summer Special. What is it called? The Deluxe Summer Fun Annual hardcover from Fantagraphics. I'm so glad we had this time together by Maurice Vellekoop. An autobiography, a memoir, a nice, hefty, chunky one. Luna Express by Campbell White. I am traveling tomorrow. I don't know if I can take any of these big, heavy hardcovers with me. Maybe I can take Luna Express with me. Although, I've mentioned this in one of my traveling with comics videos, that I'm always a little nervous about damage and, dinging the corners and all that stuff. And for the mileage, how fast you might read something. But yes, so Luna Express. Then volume 3 of Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto. Moonray by Brandon Graham, Prophet Volume 5, Earth War by Brandon Graham, and others, including Simon Roy. The same friend who lent me Tongues also lent me a Simon Roy sci-fi comic from Image Comics that he said is one of the best sci-fi comics he's ever read. I forget what it's called because I haven't yet opened that bag, again because of the mess that I mentioned earlier. But I'm looking forward to reading that as well. Beasts of Burden, Occupied Territory by Evan Dawkin, Benjamin Dewey et al. The Autumnlands Volume 2, Woodland Creatures by Kurt Busiek and Benjamin Dewey. And then what we started with, the Cuphead comics, Volume 2 and Volume 3. So here we have, I'm not going to pick this up because that's probably going to do some damage to my back. I'm just going to move them to the side over here. So that's all I have for this live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed catching up with me on this and catching up with some of the books that I've gotten. I will be traveling for the next week or so, but after that I want to get back and try to make at least one edited video a month. This is a new target I'm giving myself, and I put this out there for my patrons and for my channel members as well. I'll try to do more live streams as I work on editing a video every month because that editing takes so long, but I do want to put videos out there. I will be on other people's channels and I would be participating in panel discussions and group discussions. It's that collaborative thing, especially working now as a publisher and as an editor. I am really enjoying the collaborative aspect of things a lot more than sitting by myself in a room editing hour after hour. It just loses a little bit of its charm. I far prefer, this sort of live interaction with chat and things like that. But I understand, in especially the YouTube scheme of things, this is not always this videos that are live streams, they get barely any views or anything like that. But yeah, if I was chasing the algorithm, I would have done things a lot differently a long time ago. But A Star Called the Sun, I don't think that might be what it is. I don't know, but it's just Simon Roy. It's just written and drawn by Simon Roy himself. So it might be that one, A Star Called the Sun. It's another recent read that DOG did the math says he really enjoyed. Star Seeds Their Days in Sci-Fi. Star Seeds Their Days. All right, I'm going to keep an eye out for it. Man's Best was like We Three, cute animals in robots. All right. I mean, yeah, We Three had, I guess they were cute animals, but there was also massacres in there. But yeah, I'd like to take a look at anything that Jesse Lonergan does at this point of time. He's sort of, earned it, but Drome is definitely where I'm going to start. All right, so that's all we have for this evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this live stream. In case you're watching it later in recording, let me know how this could be improved and made more entertaining for people watching after the fact. I will be back soon. I know it's been a hiatus, but I want to make more videos. I want to do more stuff on YouTube. I just have to find the time and the energy and make it all work with all of the schedules. But thank you so much to all of you for your patience and for your constant support, especially for those of you who support on the Patreon and channel memberships as well. Follow along on Instagram, for updates on what's going on. I don't know about the algorithm. I don't know what gets put in front of people. So I'll just hope that things come up and surface around you. Thanks so much for watching. It was great fun. Thank you, Nihal. It was great fun as always. And this has been For the Love of Comics. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.